girl. You're back with your peoples. She's like, I'm finally out of that stupid truck. Hi, Opal. You just chilling? All right, y'all. Adventurous morning. We have the livestock trailer loaded up with Sophie and Amos. So this is only the third time that Sophie has ever been in a trailer in her entire life. And I think the fourth time Amos has. They just don't go places. And, you know, they're on their way to the vet. This is not the big trip with them. They're on their way to the vet to get their testing done, all that good stuff. So they have their health certificate and all that. And I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier to load goats into the livestock trailer than it is a donkey and mule, especially when they're not used to it. And y'all, Sophie was practically sitting on her butt, refusing to go into the trailer. But we got her in there, partly bribed with treats. It took a little bit, but we're on schedule. We have to be at the vet at a very specific time because they are squeezing us in today. They had thought they had time for us today and then called back and said, actually, could you come at this time instead? Because we're not free today. But they're working us in, which is really nice of them. However, they do not do same day or even fast testing. So we're doing this, but it'll still be another 10 to 12 days before we can actually have the health certificate for them and move them. So we had hoped to move the animals this coming weekend, but that's not going to happen. So it is what it is. You know, I remember when I planted the garden, I had hoped that somebody else would be doing the harvesting, and I should have known better because this kind of stuff always takes way longer than we think it's going to. But it's coming along. Oh, friends. All right, so back at the Arkansas house. Took Sophie and Amos, got their blood work done. You know, we've got these animals, and there's things that have to be done before you can transport them across state lines and all that stuff. Goats are a whole lot easier to work with. Easier to load up because you can physically move them because they're a lot smaller. All right, so I'm out here in the crunchy garden. We've been working hard trying to keep this thing alive, but you know, I had someone make a comment once several years ago back in Alabama. I was talking about like pulling out the tomato plants and you know, having time for a fall garden and all of that stuff. And they're like, well, if you just leave the plants alone, when it cools down again, they'll keep growing. They'll grow more tomatoes. That is true. But the key is if you can keep them alive. When it starts getting as hot as it is, at this moment, as I am filming, it is 108.3 degrees actual temperature. 108.3. And when plants are getting that hot, they're cooking. They are cooking in the sun. I will say I've got some more beautiful Kajari melons over here. Look at these beauties. Now, sadly, my other Kajari melons I didn't get. The ones I showed you a while back, I'm like, oh, they're like just getting ready to ripen. Look at those beautiful Kajari melons. They were in the vines over on the far end by the beans. Okay, so editing the video, realized there's a clip I did not record where I explained to you that my beautiful Kajari melons that were nearly ripe, like about ready to be picked, the raccoons got them. The raccoons got them because my fence charger died. Yeah, so I have a new one because, you know, I put an electric fence around the garden. So I have a new charger. It's sitting in the sun. It has to charge for 3 days. I just picked it up yesterday. Once it's fully charged, I can put it down there in the garden to keep the raccoons out of my garden. Because those sneaky little garden robbers were beating me to my Kajaris. So I'm hoping that they don't smell the melons before my fence is charged. Oh, and by the way, here's our beautiful new balcony. Just got done being built today. It is outside the French doors. I know it's crazy bright. It's mid-afternoon. But from here, There's a beautiful view across the property. Right down there is the gazebo with the fire pit. Sophie and Amos are right down over there. And when we're not in a drought, the beautiful creek bubbling in the waterfall right there. But we're in a drought everywhere, all over this part of Arkansas. But back to where I left off with the video. I was explaining about the Kajari melons and my little furry garden rubbers. And then I walked over to the Chinese noodle beans on the arbor, and I was explaining how I had not been harvesting any because I only had a couple seeds left. That's what I planted. And so I was letting them all dry on the trellis so that I could harvest the seeds to grow more in the future. And that's where I left off. You can see here's a nice fresh one. Here's some younger ones. There's some brand new ones over here, like this young one. It's still putting out blossoms. But I'm just letting these noodle beans do their thing, fully develop, and then completely dry up on the vine so that I can save the seeds and take them with me, and I don't have to buy some more. But there's a ton of them up there. Probably enough that I could have been harvesting them too. But that's all right. It's been so hot, I haven't been out here a whole lot. But I've got something right here that is just about ready to harvest, I think. Look at this beauty. Right here, it goes all the way down to here. It is level with my knee at the bottom and level with my eyeballs at the top. Y'all, that is a big, beautiful zucchini rampicante squash. Look at that beauty. Look at it. I've got another one right there growing down along the trellis. I've got a big old one right there. It's not as long as that first one I showed you, but it is big and round at the bottom. And then I've got another one curled up here on the trellis. Isn't that cool? And I've also already harvested a few of them. So I've gotten several of these. Now, with the zucchini rampicante squash, you can harvest them when they're young and green and use them just like a zucchini. But then when you let them fully mature and they get to that solid, deep peach color, then they're just like a butternut squash. So zucchini or butternut squash, whichever one you like, that squash will do the job for you. And I just saw there's another one. There's another one growing right in here. See that there? And everything, I mean, y'all, look at how wilty these leaves are. But can you blame the plant when it's, like I said, 108.3 degrees outside? And I deeply watered everything today. I mean, it is rough out here with these kind of temperatures. But look at that beauty. Just gorgeous. And the great thing about these squash is that they keep a long time. You can put them in your pantry. And they are a winter squash, so they will store very well and a really long time. My basil generally is doing pretty good. A lot of it is flowering, but at this point I'm just kind of letting it because I have a ton of the basil. Now the one thing that really doesn't seem to mind this heat though is the peppers. You know, we have not really had any peppers yet, but I'm starting to now. Let's see, we've got one right there. This plant is a little kind of yellow. I have truly just absolutely neglected this garden. So the new growth is nice and green, but there for a bit it's kind of yellow. So I need to fertilize out here and feed these poor plants. I started off doing really well, but then I've just been so busy. It's like I can barely get down in here. There's a whole bunch of Brazilian starfish peppers producing. Actually, I have picked a couple of cayenne peppers already. And what are you? I think actually all of these right here are Brazilian starfish. I'm gonna have to stake that one up because it's kind of leaning a little bit. Yep. There's my little plant label. Little star, Brazilian starfish. So this group right here, I kind of grouped them together this year. So Brazilian starfish peppers. The one that I showed you over here, that's a paprika pepper. Luschauer, I think is what it's called, if I remember correctly. I cannot blame you one bit for hiding under these flowers. Honey, it is hot, hot, hot. You know it's hot when the comfrey is laid down flat as a pancake because they have deep, deep roots and can reach things that other plants can't get to. And so when this is laid down, you know it's bad. You know it is dry and hot. It has been a rough year this year. You know, it was really, really mild. It seemed to take a while for it to heat up. And then it just went from late winter to bam, full on summer. It was a tough one. And I am noticing over here, the top of this tomato plant is completely stripped. Do you see this? Can you see there's no leaves anywhere at all? Which means there is probably something along the lines of a tomato hornworm out here. I'll have to come out here this evening with my black light and see if I can find it. Now, I'll be honest with y'all. I love the moths that come from the hornworms. They're beautiful. And I tend to just pick them up and take them away from my garden. Let them thrive and eat elsewhere because the moths are just so beautiful. But if it's army worms or something like that, I feed them to the chickens when the chickens are here. You can just see when I say I've got lots of basil, the whole side of this bed is almost all basil. I thought I had some peppers on this side, but I'm thinking maybe I didn't. Look at that zucchini rampicante squash is going all the way down along the bed. Over here in this bed, now this bed is a little bit more shaded than the rest of the garden. This comfrey here was drooping a little bit, but wasn't completely laid out like the other ones were this morning. This is my torch lilies. Of course, they are an early spring, one of the first things that flower when it warms up. So right now they're just a bunch of greenery. And I already harvested all of the ripe tomatoes all out of here, well, out of the entire garden earlier today. So there's really nothing else pretty to look at other than a whole bunch of green tomatoes. These are the Bumblebee Sunrise tomatoes, and they turn into a stripy yellow and orange bite-sized tomato. They're kind of a, I don't know, heart-shaped tomato, kind of bite-sized. Mr. Smith absolutely loves them. And the other thing I started doing this morning until it just got way too hot was the beans. I started cutting apart all of the bases, and I'm going to strip all of the beans off of the trellises. You can see where I've already kind of started pulling them all down. We're going to clear all this off and plant a new round. And I'll probably also look at what else I can go ahead and start planting. It's, you know, mid-August, a gazillion degrees outside. So we'll see. We'll see what I can plant this time of year. But y'all, here's this. My grape trellis. She's producing. And there are grapes all over the place. This is the first year it's produced. Now I planted two different varieties. This one on this side is the Cowart Muscadine. It is a dark purpley black color grape, which you can see right here. Look at that. And then, oh, there's another ripe one. They're getting started. And then over on the other side, I planted what's called Carlos Muscadine. And those are a green type of grape. And both of these are Muscadines, which are, you know, native to the United States. They do very, very well here. You can see I got grapes all over the place. Now we're going to leave this swing here. It's a great swing. I'd love to take it with us, but we're just going to leave this here for whoever buys the homestead, whoever lives here next. They can sit here under the grape arbor and just enjoy it. Yeah, there's been a lot going on. If you hear some noise in the background, we've got people here working. We've got some contractors here doing some stuff for us. The downstairs bathroom, the one that I did kind of like the mini superficial renovation to, wasn't really a renovation. We had a new toilet put in, and I had completely painted it and made it look completely different. Well, now we're having a brand new shower and a brand new vanity and sink and everything put in. So it'll be all new in that bathroom. But yeah, it's coming along. Like I said, it's going to be time to clean out the crunchy garden. Make it look nice. Clean it. Make it look nice and tidy. And I don't know, plant some fall things. And hopefully, prayerfully, we will not be harvesting the fall garden. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, y'all. It always, like I said earlier in this video, it always takes longer for us to do all this stuff than we think it's going to. But it's coming, ever so slowly. All right, y'all. With that, thanks for hanging out with me here today. God bless y'all, and I'll talk to you next time.